Welcome back to the IBFP. Here's your host, Foxy New.
Welcome back, fight fans. Welcome back. Carl Froch is an Anthony Joshua hater. And look, we just got to be honest and unbiased about it. And we're going to use facts and never feelings like we always do. And, we're going to break down multiple Carl Froch statements and expose him for being the hater that he is, because he's always in his feelings. He never brings facts. And he's basically underhanded with literally every statement he makes about Anthony Joshua. So we're just going to expose this fraud for who he is. And we start with his first comment on, Anthony Joshua and Dillian Whyte. And he states more people have heard of Anthony Joshua than Dillian Whyte, but Whyte will give an equally as tough fight to Tyson Fury as Joshua would. So, they both pose their own threats to Fury in their own ways, but they would equally give a toughest fight. So those two statements make no sense. The first statement is, more people have heard of Joshua than Whyte. Well, more people have heard of Joshua than Whyte simply because Anthony Joshua is a global icon, a superstar. He sells out arenas, packs, breaks pay-per-view records, goes to different countries and fights. The guy's a global icon, and he's a face of boxing along with Canelo Alvarez. So for you to say that, just more people have heard of him, no, it's not that simple. This guy's a superstar. You notice Carl Froch always trying to downplay anything that Anthony Joshua does at this point. He's an absolute hater of Anthony Joshua. Then he also says, Whyte will give equally a tough fight as Tyson, to Tyson Fury as Anthony Joshua would. That makes no sense. This is the same Anthony Joshua that knocked out Dillian Whyte. This is the same Anthony Joshua that's an elite boxer. The same Anthony Joshua that has elite power. The same Anthony Joshua that's a height and reach that Dillian Whyte simply doesn't have. This is the same Anthony Joshua who has overall better resume. This is the same Anthony Joshua that's a two-time unified heavyweight champion. These are all intangibles that he have over Dillian Whyte. So the fact that you would even say and speak this nonsense like these guys would pose the same equal threat to Tyson Fury makes no sense. Anthony Joshua is much more of a dangerous opponent to Tyson Fury than Dillian Whyte. Now, Dillian Whyte is a dangerous opponent because of his style. Yes, I agree with that, but they do not pose the same risk. They do not pose the same threat. That is fanboy nonsense and talk of an undercover hater, which is Carl Froch. And you also see that, when the pound for pound list for the top 10 British fighters over the last, decade plus or whatever, came out, and Carl Froch was complaining because he was not listed on there, but Anthony Joshua was. This is his exact statement. He said, not putting me in the top 10 is bad news, and I don't know how you can have AJ in the top 10. I'm not giving AJ stick, but he got knocked out by a fat little kid from Mexico. I never been knocked out in my life, amateur or professional. He also states AJ got beat up by a fat Mexican who we don't even know how good the Mexican is because he's not done anything really, and they've got him in the top 10. So obviously he's jealous that people are ranking him above him career-wise. Anthony Joshua has done way more than Carl Froch career-wise. You can't even make the comparison. A lot of Carl Froch's fights could have went the other way. See, this guy's a moron, a hater, and an idiot, but we're going to expose him. See, when you look at Carl Froch, you see this guy, he's lost twice in his career. Anthony Joshua's only lost once. He's avenged one fight, while the second fight against Andre Ward, he showed no interest in rematching him, showed no interest in, stepping up to the plate and fighting this guy and getting a victory over him. He simply didn't want the chance. So we got to be real about it. So why did Carl Froch never want to take the risk to fight Andre Ward in a rematch? Because he didn't want to get beat again for the second time by the same guy. The guy didn't want to be great. He didn't want to secure his legacy by avenging that fight. He didn't even want to take it, and he was offered it, after retirement and before retirement. The guy simply didn't want the fight. He simply didn't want to clear that blemish. You know why? Because Carl Froch was quoted as saying, I cannot beat Andre Ward. So we got to be real about it. At the end of the day, these are his words. Those are not the words of a true warrior or a fighter. That's the words of a coward. We got to be real about it. And then we turn to Andy Ruiz in his statements talking about that Andy Ruiz is, is a fat Mexican. We don't know how good he is because he's not really done anything. Well, when you look at Andy Ruiz, he's only lost to champions. He's lost to Joseph Parker in a close, controversial fight that literally could have went either way. Most people felt like he only lost because the fight was overseas. So you got to take that into consideration. And then, he also lost to Anthony Joshua, who's a unified heavyweight champion. So a two-time unified heavyweight champion. So I don't understand how you can say, he's nobody. Talk about him like he's nothing. Another thing about Andy Ruiz is he did something that Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder has never done. He's beaten an elite unified heavyweight champion who was undefeated and in his prime. Neither Tyson Fury nor Deontay Wilder has done that. So before you talk about Andy Ruiz, you need to check the resume and realize he's done something that neither one of those guys have. Let's just be honest and unbiased. And then we also see some of his other hater talk and comments. And you see Carl Froch come out and say Andy Ruiz is like the new Mike Tyson. And this was before the Ruiz-Joshua rematch. So now he's like the new Mike Tyson. But after the fight, and he hasn't done anything. He's nobody. So you can't even make up your mind. So one minute Andy Ruiz is the new Mike Tyson, and the other minute he's garbage. See, this is how you know this guy's a hater. He keeps making himself look stupid. He also made another statement. He said, I wouldn't be surprised if this is the end of Anthony Joshua. Basically saying if he loses this fight against Andy Ruiz, his career's over. That's a huge implication for a fight. So you think his career's over because he lost a rematch to a guy? That doesn't make any sense. He couldn't fight on. He's just done. That makes no sense to me. And then after the Anthony Joshua-Andy Ruiz fight, Anthony Joshua gets the victory. He turns around and says, the Andy Ruiz win was meaningless. So the fight of his career, the fight that you said that his career would have been over if he would have lost, is absolutely meaningless? Carl Froch is an absolute hater who cannot and will not give credit to Anthony Joshua because he hates on the man constantly. He's also came out and said idiotic statements about Anthony Joshua before he fought Joseph Parker. He went out and stated that, he questioned Anthony Joshua's stamina and mental toughness ahead of the Joseph Parker fight. Anthony Joshua embarrassed the moron by simply going 12 rounds and putting on a boxing clinic against Joseph Parker. He didn't think Anthony Joshua could go 12. He didn't think he could box on his feet and on his toes. This is something people simply don't understand. If you watch the fights and you see how he performs, you understand Anthony Joshua adapts his body to the guy who's in front of him, to the guy who's in his next fight. You got to be honest about it. Carl Froch is just an absolute hater. And let's be honest about the real reason why Carl Froch hates Anthony Joshua, why he doesn't like Anthony Joshua, is because he's always been critical of Anthony Joshua ever since AJ broke his record of 80,000 people plus in Wembley, when Anthony Joshua broke it with 90,000 plus in Wembley. That's the reason why Carl Froch is a hater and a fanboy. Once again, honest and unbiased as always, it's the IBFP.